What's up YouTube? This is Kyle with Carve Creative, and today I'm going to be talking about the lightning rails. So this is my first time as a one-wheel rider ever having any sort of bent aftermarket rails. I did not have them on the XR. I tried out the WTFs and I wasn't a huge fan of needing the tilt mod because I still just do not like messing with the controller or the battery of a board. I also tried the tail rails and those had that higher tail kick, which was a little bit too jarring for my hip and my back. So when these rails were announced, I was very excited because, as you can see, they do have a little bit of a lifted tail, but it's not as pronounced as it was on the XR tail rails. So with this board, they lowered the center of gravity by a ½ inch, which was much needed on the GT. The stock GT rails were a lot more chunky than the XR rails were. And on top of that, we also have concave foot pads now. And with that, you were just standing a lot higher up in relation to the wheel than we're used to on the XR or the Pint. So with these rails, when you are engaged, this is about what it looks like. Everyone was thinking that these were going to be exactly like tail rails, but as you can see, it's actually pretty uniform between the two foot pads. When you step on these rails, the first thing that comes to your mind is stability. It is night and day difference from the stock experience. I really like the GT, like it's a great board. And I think in my mind as a rider and being as a larger rider, the extra torque was so nice for me that it made me kind of put on like rose tinted glasses and forget about the things that weren't great about the board, mainly being the higher center of gravity that we're experiencing now with the way that it's set up stock. So when I stepped on this, it was really familiar because I had the stability that I was used to with the XR, but now I have all that torque that I'm loving with the GT. So it's kind of a perfect combination of both worlds. Drops feel better, bonks feel better, carving feels better. You just feel a lot more locked into the board and you don't feel like when you hit something, there's a possibility that you're gonna tip over. Because the center of gravity has been lowered by a ½ inch, that does mean that you are losing clearance in the front. So it's something that you have to adjust to. The first day I took them out to the trails, anytime there was a steep incline, I was slightly dragging my nose. And anywhere there was a decline where before I would be dragging my tail a little bit, I wasn't. For me as a rider, I would much rather drag my nose going uphill than drag my tail going downhill. When you're going downhill and you're dragging your tail, it's a lot easier to lose control than it is to fall into a hill going uphill. So from my perspective, I would much rather be dragging my nose a little bit than my tail a little bit. So it's just kind of something that we have to adjust to. When we're lowering our center of gravity, there's something you have to do to make up for it, and that thing is adjustment. So I think that when people get on these, when you get on the street, you're gonna notice no difference at all other than all the benefits and all the stability. On the trails, you might have to dial your riding style in a little bit and just compensate for that loss of clearance in the front, but it is definitely a manageable thing. So you can see with the design here that the tail does come up a little bit, and something that I noticed on the trails which was really cool was that if you tuck your foot back here, it's a lot more of a tail rail feeling, but it's not as drastic. It just locks you in a lot more in the back. So when I ride trails, I like to tuck my foot back here. When I'm riding in the street, I like to have my foot, kind of centered in the foot pad, but it's just really cool the difference between holding your foot right here and holding your foot back here as far as the locked in feeling that you get. People are wondering like, why would I want rails like these? And honestly, I think these rails are just as much for inexperienced riders as they are for experienced riders. You'll notice very quickly that you're gonna have more confidence doing all the things that we do on our one wheels, drops, riding over inconsistencies, riding over speed bumps. All that stuff feels completely different with the lowered center of gravity. So I think that these rails are gonna be great for experienced riders that wanna rip trails and have more confidence. And they're also gonna be great for the guy that just got his first board and he's struggling with turning and stability and confidence riding the board. I really like these rails a lot. And like I said, the only negative that I can think of is the loss of nose clearance, but it's just something you adjust to, and it's totally worth the loss of nose clearance for everything else that you gain with these rails. So as of right now, there are not any Railguards available for these rails. So I went the Bumper Boy route, and these are the Bumper Boys that I got from Wheel Fun Stuff. And these are for the stock GT rails, but they fit these rails perfectly. Even where you have the contour lines here, they take shape really nicely over the rails. And this is one option for people for protecting these rails. If you want them to look really good, you're still gonna get some scrapes here or there, but this will drastically reduce the amount of scrapes that you're gonna get on your rails. So those are my thoughts on the Lightning rails. I'm totally digging them so far. I cannot wait for other people to get them underneath their feet. They're supposed to be coming between mid and end of July. So please let us know in the comments if you're having these rails come in, and let us know when you get them what you think about them. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Please take the time to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. We're gonna have other stuff coming down the pipeline with Lightning rails, and we'll talk to you guys soon.